I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com, we go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is the 5th and 14th Amendment. Question was asked on that, and Mr. Fuller has been discussing that, but we will take your calls and questions, 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby. Mr. Fuller mentioned in the first segment about a royal system, and for those who don't know, basically it's this. In a monarchy, a king or queen is head of state. The British monarchy is known as a constitutional monarchy. This means that while the sovereign is head of the state, the ability to make and pass legislation resides with an elected parliament, which they have over there. So he mentioned the royal system, and then he mentioned statute law, which is law on paper. Then he mentioned common law, and then case law, which he gave examples of. Okay, Mr. Fuller, continuing in on that, in the fifth area of people activity, on page 149, if you can turn to that right there, in the middle of the page where it says, regardless of what you may have been told, all the way down to the according. Do you have that? That's in the, by the way, that is in the revised expanded edition of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Do you have that, Mr. Fuller?
149?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Basically in the middle, right there where it starts with regardless.
Right, I can get it. 149.
Yes, sir.
I have it here.
Yes, sir.
You say it's where now?
Starting
regardless of what you may have been told, expect at all times to be mistreated. As a result of so-called laws and or legal systems that you are involved in and are subject to during the existence of the system of white supremacy. I'm going to repeat part of that.
Yes.
Regardless of what you may have been told, I'm talking to black people now, all over the world, non-white people, expect, and this comes under the Area 5 under law, expect at all times to be mistreated as a result of so-called laws and our legal systems that you are involved in and are subject to during the existence of the system of white supremacy. Now, why would I say that? I said that because it's true. It's either true or false. Now, some people will say, well, that's not true. First of all, I'm not subject to any legal system under the system of white supremacy, but the code book, as I have written it, and this is just my opinion, says, regardless of what you've been told, you can expect at all times to be mistreated as a result of so-called laws and our legal systems that you are involved in and are subject to, and it's because you are subject to an illegitimate system anyway, overall, by birth, called the system of white supremacy, if you are a person with color in his or her skin. The white supremacists don't care anything about any laws that you say apply to you if you're a person of color, because that's their business. Their business is to see to it that their law, the law of the white supremacists, whomever they may be, is more powerful than any law that you say that you are involved in. And so that's why that's written there. So you can expect that. You go into on a job or in a court of law, so-called, or whatnot, you're still in a slave system called the system of white supremacy. You are a prisoner of war in that system because war was made against you before you were born.
Yes.
If you have color in your skin. So regardless of what people say in a so-called court, you can expect to be mistreated if you have color in your skin. Have that in mind. Expect to be mistreated. So you go all out to try to keep from being mistreated by using whatever words they give you, because all of court systems are about words. So you use words, including in the Northwestern Hemisphere, the Constitution, since they said you can use it, they, whomever they are, originally some white supremacists supposedly said that you can use it. Some of them who said that they support the same words, and also some of these people who said that they support these same words, who are classified as white, also said that they believed in these words and that it should apply to everybody. But when it's put to a test, when it comes to non-white people, they take the position under their common law, the law of the white supremacists, that you are not entitled to use these words to do the things that are necessary to help produce justice where you're concerned.
Mr. Fuller, could
you can expect to be mistreated.
Yes.
In the system of white supremacy when it comes to law. That's basically what I'm saying.
That's right.
Expect to be mistreated when it comes to law.
Okay.
Why? Because the evidence shows you usually are.
Okay. Now, could you continue right there where it says do not?
Yes. Do not expect truth to be revealed or used in a manner that results in justice and or correctness through so-called lawmaking that is directly or indirectly dominated by racist man and or racist woman, who are the white supremacists collectively. At best, expect only the expressions of so-called concern or sympathy.
At best.
They'll give you concern. Particularly in the year 2019, the white supremacists are big on saying, I'm concerned about you, or I sympathize with you. I really, my heart is with you. But they will say, the law says, talking about racist law, I just can't help you. But I sympathize with your pain. Tell me all about how you feel, about how you're being treated, and I'll listen. I might even cry with you. Put my hand on your shoulder and walk down the hall with you. And we'll both cry together. But you're not going to get justice. Why? Because under racist law, you're not entitled to it. How am I going to have white supremacy and justice in the same court of law, on the same planet, at the same time? It doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Before we talk about your book, could you read that last little part right there, which is very important, according to
compensatory logic, a law is anything that is done. That's what a law is. If you're doing it, that's the law. You might call it common law. You might call it statute law. You might call it any kind of law. But a law really is functionally anything that is done. That's a law. This means that every time any quote-unquote police person does anything, he or she is practicing, enacting, enforcing a law of whatever it is that is being done. If that so-called police person shoots you in the back, that's law.
Mm.
He's not broken the law. He's not broken race law. If it's a race soldier pretending to be a police officer, and never get those two mixed up. That's why words are very important. Stop saying police brutality. There's no such thing as that. Stop saying police mistreat people. Stop saying police are an occupying force among black people. No, police officers are excellent people. Don't get the two mixed up. You've got to have police. Don't say that you're against the police, ever. You've got to have the police. Police is what you want. You definitely. Police means service. It means justice. That's what policemen do. Policemen and women are people. Police people. That's what they do. But a race soldier is an imposter. A race soldier is like an infiltrator, like a spy, pretending to be a police officer. So when you use these terms, police mistreat black people, that never happens. That has never happened in history. There's no incident of that ever happening. But race soldiers pretending to be police, that's a different thing altogether.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's an imposter.
Okay.
That's a spy. That's a person with evil intent. And the first requirement of being a what? Police officer is what? According to compensatory logic. Not to have arrest procedures down pat, not to have the ability to deliver babies. I mean, which is a wonderful thing. All right? The first requirement for being a police officer, according to compensatory logic, is to have what as a qualification? The correct intentions. If you don't have the correct intentions, you should flunk out of police school on the first minute you step foot in there. You set foot in there and you don't have the correct intentions. You got the intention you go around mistreating people. You have already messed up. And you're not even haven't spent 1 minute in law enforcement school yet. But you have already messed up big time. Why? Because you're going in there with the incorrect intentions.
Okay. And the last line of that sentence where it says it is important?
It is important to know and to understand that law is not the same as justice.
All right.
Laws change, but justice remains the same.
The same. Okay. Excuse me. TalkToHim@radio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkToHim@radio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is live from Washington, D.C. But it is at this time that we set aside for Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. to speak about his book. Mr. Fuller?
Now, the book that I'm reading from is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action, either thinking, speaking, acting, for victims of white supremacy. If you don't consider yourself to be a victim of white supremacy, a prisoner of war of the white supremacist system, a slave to the system of white supremacy in the year 2019, then the book does not apply to you. This book is written specifically for the individual person, for thought, first think about whatever it is you're reading in this book, and then you speak about it, whatever you're reading, if you choose to do so, to yourself first, and to others if you prefer, and then you act on what you are thinking about and speaking about based on what you have read. And it's supposed to do what? Solve problems. If this book doesn't help you to solve a problem, it is completely worthless. Completely worthless. It's about those two words, problem solving. Problem solving specifically for whom? For the individual victim of racism, slave to the system of racism, prisoner of war to the system of racism, non-white people of this entire planet. That's what the book is written for, and addressed to you, not as an organization or as a group, but as an individual person, telling you, making suggestions about what you can do or possibly should do under various circumstances in the system of white supremacy, since that's where you are, presumably. You're not outside of the system. So what you can do to unravel the system, you can't step outside of it and work from the outside because you're inside. You're a prisoner of war. So you have to work from inside the prison. So this is a code book designed to follow a code of thinking, speaking, and acting that will unravel the system and presumably replace it with a better system, which would be what? If you're going to do away with the system of white supremacy, which is a magnificent system for getting things done, but it stomps on people in the process. Mm-hmm. So you replace that with what? A better system. What would be a better system than a system of white supremacy? It would be a system of justice, which has never in recorded history been produced by anybody. So it's quite a task. But it always starts with the individual person. You should be that individual. I'm trying to be that individual. That's why I wrote the book. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com.
Okay. Let's go to the Gmails here. 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. This comes from a brother from South Africa, and I meant to mention to you, Mr. Fuller, this brother is extremely pleased that the book, well, at least he has a copy. In fact, he Gmailed me a copy of a picture, a photo of the book that he has received down in South Africa. So I don't know if the book has got down there, but he got his, and he is extremely happy. And he wanted me to express that to you, that he is very happy to get that book down there. Okay, he says this. He says, Mr. Fuller, so I've seen clips of this new series called The King of Harlem, starring Forrest Whitaker. In that clip, a white man says to Forrest Whitaker, who is acting as Bumpy Johnson, he says to him, quote, "I am a white supremacist and you're a black supremacist. We have that in common," end of quote. And I've seen in our politics here in South Africa, Mr. Fuller, racist suspects pushing the narrative that black people are racist. Mr. Neely Fuller, please, could you give me your perspective on this matter? I'm seeing that we are being mistreated in entertainment and politics. How else do you think they're trying to confuse us? They also have Malcolm X's character depicted also. Mr. Fuller?
Well, the white supremacists' strength, the greatest strength that they have, is in causing confusion. So part of that confusion is to give the illusion that black people are in charge of something. But that's why I always use the prison format. If you put it in your mind that the system of white supremacy is a prison system, and everybody classified as non-white is walking around in the prison yard, or they are confined to the prison cell, what we call greater confinement, or the greater confinement within the confinements, and confinements within the confinements within the confinements. See, but a lot of confinement is about control. You confine people, like Soweto. Sowetoism. That's confinement. So-called black neighborhoods or black communities. No such thing as a black community in a prison system. It doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. And so that term should never even be used. Black community. That should be out of the lexicon, out of the word use altogether. A community has strength. It has protection. Mm-hmm. It can support itself. That's what a community is. There's not but one community on this planet, and that is the system of white supremacy. The community, the commune, the communist, capitalist, socialist, royalist system called the system of white supremacy. That's a community. All right? They got the muscle. I mean, they go where they please. Black people only go where they're allowed to go by the white supremacists, anywhere on the planet. That so-called passport system means just that. It means it's got to, but it doesn't have that on it. But what it really means is, if you're a person of color, you get permission from the white supremacists to go anywhere on this planet. So when they say that, I haven't seen that movie that he's talking about, but if he's talking about some black person being in charge of something, immediately think about the prison system. In a prison system of white supremacy, you have black people walking around in the prison yard who have been called trustees, or they have been called people who are given privileges, or they have some type of status where they have been favored by the wardens of the prison masters. And you had this on plantations. I mean, you have this in any hierarchy. You have people who are assigned to watch other people. All right? You have people who have better jobs in the prison than other people. So a lot of black people on the planet now, here in 2019, have been given fancy titles. That's all that they have. They don't have any muscle in the system of white supremacy at all. It just seems like they do. Mm-hmm. Many of them ride around in limousines and expensive garments and flashing diamonds. But the white supremacists are in charge of every part of it. They don't have anything. They would be naked walking around in 15 minutes if the white supremacists decide that. And many people make the mistake of thinking, because they're given a little leeway, that they have some muscle, even sometimes a little bit of muscle that they can get in the white supremacist's face, and because they got an AK-47 in a photograph by their side, all right, and they get themselves photographed with an AK-47, stop and think about that AK-47, which is a rifle. Where did they come from?
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller.
That person sitting there acting all pompous and whatnot, like he got some muscle, can't even fix that AK-47.
Pardon me.
White supremacists telling them how to do it.
Pardon the interruption, Mr. Fuller, but they're giving me the signal that I have to close the first hour down. Pardon me. Excuse me, and to the listeners, excuse me. TalkToNetRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. We will see you at the second hour. Excuse me.